I am Nakala Akasie, and I've got 1.5 hours to present how you use a pendulum, and it's really not enough time. When I started dowsing, I took a 2-day workshop, and so to cram it all in 1.5 hours is a stretch, but we're going to do the best we can. Okay? I'm going to cover a few things before we get into the actual dowsing part of it. First of all, you know my name is Nakala Akasie. I'm going to repeat it so you guys remember. And I am a messenger for the Palladian Council of Light. I work with a team of Palladians called the Akasie, and that's where my name came from. They asked me to take that name, so I did. And what started my spiritual path, and back in 1995, you know, we all have a different path, and a lot of us has had big things happen to get us on that path. My particular thing was an old-fashioned suicide, and there's nothing like having a suicide in your family to shake things up. We're talking about subtle energies here this weekend, and that particular incident, Rael, my husband back there who's videoing as well, he said, well, it just caused waves of subtle energy. And I said, no, it was more like a tidal wave of energy that came in on every single level. It wasn't just physical, it was mental, emotional, and spiritual. Because I had to go inside and reassess everything that I stood for, everything that I believed in. And it wasn't easy. It took me 25 years. So during that time, when I was assessing my inner self, I did what you guys are doing. I went out and did events and listened to people talk and read my books and whatnot, did that kind of stuff. Until 2008, when I saw a flyer for a dowsing workshop. I want y'all to know that I was well into practicing different things like meditation, automatic writing. I was doing a whole lot of different things, and I was seeing results. I was. But when I went to the dowsing workshop and was introduced to a way to connect with my spiritual guides, and that's why I went. I didn't really care about energy at that time because I didn't even understand it. And I wanted to connect to my spiritual guides because I wanted to ask them questions and find out, well, you know, like for instance, what happened to my family member? Why did that person choose to leave? That kind of thing. And so, but instead, or I should say in addition, I got a whole lot more out of it. We were introduced to ways to identify, measure, and transmute energy, and also raise a vibration. And my voice is shaking, I know, I'm nervous. I apologize. So we worked for 2 days on how to transmute energy. And it was exciting. I found out things I would never even dream to ask about. And therefore, I went home and doused every single thing in my home, I believe, to see what kind of energy it had in it, you know, and we'll get to it. But so I was excited, and I would not put the pendulum down. I got obsessed, I might say, and people started worrying about me. And true, they told me, you know, you need help. But at the same time, I was receiving energy, a vibration, and it felt like love. And I knew it had to do with this. And so I kept doing it, and I got worried, and, you know, and because my answers weren't consistent with the questions I was asking and whatnot. And And I really got frightened. So I did talk to a couple people, and they're like, you need help. So I went forward. As you can see, I'm still here, and I'm working on it. During that time, as I said last night, I didn't talk about all of it, but some really weird phenomena started happening in my home, and it wasn't internal, it was external. I heard noises, and I'm not going to go into all of that, but the thing was, everything that I knew to be true was changing, it was shifting. And when you are not prepared for these types of shifts, and you have no one to go to tell them and ask for help, it causes a lot of anxiety. And I'm talking a lot. It's not healthy. And so at that time, because I want you to look at I'm going to jump around, so I hope you can follow me. This is the chart that you have in your hands is the chart that I received at that workshop. And during the whole time, we worked on measurements, percentages, the strength of the energy, and so on. Never once were we told there's an alphabet on here. And when I got home and started dowsing, and I started putting two and two together, they said, meet your spirit guides at that workshop. I went home and I'm like, wait a minute, I really didn't meet my spirit guides. I know I was told that I was working with them when I was dowsing, but I didn't really consider that meeting my spirit guides. So I looked at this chart and I saw the alphabet, and I said, wait a minute, I'm gonna douse and see if I can find out some names. And I did. That's about when my beautiful team, the Akasie, shows up. Been there all along. But I'm like giving them permission to communicate with me through this, and then they start telepathically communicating with me. And they did it in such a slick way. It took me years to figure this out, but they did it in a really slick way. So when I'm dowsing for a yes and no question, I'm hearing it in my mind also. Yes or no, or whatever, At that point, I was dowsing for sentences, and it was very tedious. And I joke about it because I say, well, my guys really got tired of spelling out stuff, I'm serious. Who would want to do that? So anyway, so I started hearing telepathically. I'm not stating this because you all are going to douse for a couple of weeks and all of a sudden start hearing telepathically messages from your spirit guides or somebody who's passed, because that happened to me. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying it is a possibility, and I'm putting it out there because no one told me. So when I went home and experienced it, it caused a little bit of a tidal wave in my subtle energy body. So my purpose in the work that I do, because of the suicide in my family and what I experienced when I started dowsing and began to communicate with my spirit guides telepathically, is to assist people in making the transitions easier, to make you aware, give you information so you can make decisions with knowledge instead of just, what do I do? And that's not cool. So that's my purpose, why I'm here, okay? What I'm going to present is not considered conscious language. And I've been struggling with this because I know to make a perfect world, we are to speak like everything is perfect. We only see the beauty in every single person. We don't see anything else. We see the beauty in the flowers, even though there's a petal that's dried up. We don't see that. All we see is the beauty. So I'm struggling with this presentation a little bit, and I want you to be aware of it. I'm not doing this because I'm uneducated. I'm doing this because I want you to expand your awareness on a level that you begin to assess energies. And I really don't know how else to say it but So I just wanted to state that this is not conscious language, not all the way. I want to do a conscious language. You know, does everybody know what the conscious language is? I just kind of explained it as you don't say what. Did somebody raise their hand? He's over there. This is my husband. Last night, Rael, somebody said, you need to introduce your husband, and I thought I had. He's my assistant person. He's my helper. He's big on conscious language, so for me to talk like this in front of him is like, it's okay. I'm going to start back when I was a child and just move forward really quickly. Concerning dowsing, I did not know the first thing about dowsing except for what my father had told me. He said, you know, the farmers go out in the field and they get their sticks and they walk around and they douse for water. And I think that's about all he told me, but I thought, you know, and I filed it away like I did so many other things, and it didn't ever come back up. I mean, I'm not going to go douse for water. I don't need to. I have water coming out of my sink. But the point is, dowsing has been around for a very, very long time. It's written about in the Bible and pre-Bible stuff and all that, and who knows how long it's been around. I believe it's a gift, I really do, that has been given to us, like so many other modalities of healing, so we can assess energy and start to recognize and know what we are feeling. On a subtle level, and with our ego, you know how that is, you're reacting to energy. I moved here almost 3 years ago, and I'm telling you, the mountain amplifies all this stuff, and it's pouring out of me, and I'm like, where in the heck is that coming from? It's ugly junk. And I thank God for Rael, because he's helped me through so much of it. What I'm stating is, it's amplifying subtle energies so much that I can't ignore it any longer. And basically, a lot of us are we're uneducated. I wanted to say stupid, but that's not it. We're uneducated. We don't understand that there's energy in every single thing, every single person, and you can choose to focus in on it or not. You can. I believe our path is, and this is one way to get it, I believe our path is to begin to understand the nuances of energy and to shift them at will. And maybe not even consciously, we just do it. There's so many, Dave was talking about shifting energies a little bit. I didn't catch a whole lot of it, the guy before me. But we have to have modalities like the dowsing in order to move forward, to begin to really understand what our world's made of, okay? Dowsing, as I said last night, is bringing together different levels. This phraseology is difficult, but because I don't understand it. There's consciousness, and you're bringing forth the higher mind of God and the subtle consciousness, the subconsciousness, and you're connecting all of that in this body, and it comes out through the pendulum or whatever tool you're using. There's other tools, and I'm going to introduce those as well. So that is what dowsing is. You can douse, like I said, for water, different minerals in the earth, and that's what they used it for a long time ago, and maybe more, I don't know. But today, we have got more information, and you can douse on anything. I'm going to talk a little bit about misconceptions before we get into protocols and whatnot. The misconceptions about dowsing. First of all, some people have a belief system that this is just evil. It's like a Ouija board. And you start dowsing and you're going to get all sorts of, you don't know what you're going to get. But I believe that was part of my problem, because I remember the Ouija board and I'm thinking, I don't know what I'm getting here. but I persevered. So I don't want you all to leave here thinking that you can go and douse and find out particular things, like when you're going to get married or when you're going to meet your next boyfriend or whatever. We are in motion. We are constantly making new decisions, new choices. I've got a choice. I can go to Mount Shasta, Wesak this weekend, or I can stay home and watch TV. You're making choices. You're here. You've made a choice. And with every choice, it changes the fields. You're amplifying, or you're neutral, and you're changing the fields of other people. You're interacting with. It's a communication. You are communication devices. So I like to put it like that, because you have all these chakras and you have all these bodies, and you're constantly exchanging information. You don't know what you're doing for the most part. And I believe, as I said before, this is one of the ways to help us learn that. Exact science. Okay? I want you to also understand there's a practical side to this, and there's also, I want to say exotic, that's probably not the word, scientific. You can take dowsing and just use it for practical purposes in the home to douse your food, your water, or you can take it outside of the home and begin to work with your community and your strings of water to transmute the impurities. You can go into the school systems, the towns. You can do all sorts of stuff with the dowsing system. The dowsing system, as I said before, and this is a phrase that I'm going to be using throughout, is our guides, our higher mind and the subconscious mind, and us. Right now I'm going to say that since we have our own thought system, we have our ego, that the objective here when you're dowsing is to stay neutral. There's so many people that get involved in what they're dowsing. It's like I said before, they want to know when they're going to meet their next friend. And they are like so wanting to meet somebody that they influence the answers. And so part of dowsing is training yourself to be neutral to the outcome. You don't want to influence that. You want to be neutral. When you're not neutral, that means your ego's involved. And we do not want the ego. We want our God selves to come through, okay? Because that is what's for the highest good. You all have spirit guides working with you, and our room is totally packed with all these beautiful beings of light that I wish we could see. Some of you can. We are going to move on to some protocols and programming here. I think I'm going to switch it up. I'm going to introduce you to a couple of dowsing tools. You would be amazed at how many tools there are out there that you can douse with. We are members of the Dowsing Society down in Reading, and there's guys down there that they make all these tools and to douse with, and it's kind of fun. And as you douse, you'll pick out your own tool that you like to do, use the best or the most. So this is a pendulum. There is a specific way to hold it, and I hold the chain in my hand like that, and I let it fall like this, and I use it about a couple inches like this. I've seen people douse, you would name it, they hold the pendulum on like this, and there's all sorts of ways you can hold it. It really, I have the best results when I hold it like that. The weight for me is right, it's pointed so I can get precise measurements. I can see, on my chart, you can see there's numbers and they're pretty close together. So when you're dowsing and this thing is swinging over a number, you need to be able to read it. And a lot of times I have to kind of get over top of it, and look on, and to actually see where it's pointing. So we have this, and this is used for information dowsing. We're just trying to gather information to determine something, some sort of energy. We also have map dowsing. I'm going to ask if all of you just show me who's doused before by raise your hand. Are you avid dowsers? Just occasionally? Okay. Do you all use a pendulum or do you use other devices? Pendulum. Okay. Okay. We're going to shake it up. These guys, there are all sorts of different ways. I'm not kidding. It's just amazing. These men that want to create things, they have all these weird devices. But this is called a bobber. And you can use this basically the same way as a pendulum. Okay, wait. When you are dowsing, I'm going to show you two movements. Give me a yes. This is going back and forth, and that's my yes. Give me a no, please. A no is sideways. I want to say right now that other people will have different movements. And for the purposes of what we teach a certain way. So the bobber is the same way. Give me a no. It's like that. Okay, give me a yes. So it's got particular movements. And when we are clearing energy, it's going to do it for me. We go counterclockwise. And when we want to put energy in, light and love, we go clockwise. And the same is true for the pendulum. Okay, I do not use the bobber. I can't put it in my pocket. Then, these are called L rods. And these are really cool because they are, I'm going to say this wrong, telescoping, where that means that they just go inside and they look like a pin. So you can just stick it in your pocketbook if you want. I was playing with this. I'm getting off task, but I have to do this or I will forget. I was playing. These are new. We just got these in last week, and I'm like, man, those are cool. I don't even use L rods, but they're cool, and they're brass, and they're easy to carry, and you can use these to go out into the field and douse for water. So I'm going to ask my system to give me a yes, and it crosses for a yes. And give me a no, please. And it goes out for a no. So when you're walking in the field and you say, show me where the vein of water is, you don't even have to use two. You just use one, and it'll point you in the right direction. And then when you get closer, you can use both of them. And it'll show you the exact spot where the water is. Excuse me. Well, I was playing with this yesterday because I wanted to do a little experiment on stage. And I didn't have the right stuff. This stems from an example given in the American Dowsing Society booklet. And this guy was on stage, and I think I said this last year, but I'm going to say it again. It was worth repeating. This teacher was on stage, and he was doing exercise, and he says, show me north. And he has his little L rods, and he's probably using one, but he says, show me north. And he knew which way was north, okay? But the rod, let's do this for exercise. Show me north, please. Kept going somewhere in the audience, and north was the other way. So he's like baffled. I mean, this guy's a teacher, okay? This is to show you that we're still learning. You can get tripped up, okay? It's a matter of being very aware of how you phrase things. He couldn't figure out what was going on. And so the guy in the audience, I guess, felt sorry for him. And he goes, I know what your problem is. And he goes, yeah. And he said, well, my name is North. My last name is North. And, oh, okay. So the right way to phrase that question, or to show me the command, whatever, how you want to say that, is show me the direction north. Okay, it's just one word different, but you have a whole different outcome. So I'm thinking, okay, I want to try this on stage. And I'm thinking, I want to play around with my husband here. And I wanted to have a picture and put it on the stage and have him out there and say, well, show me. I was going to say Rael, because he's changed his name this past year. And but I didn't have a picture. So yesterday, when I was playing, a couple of people were over there at the vendors, and I was just playing around. I go, okay, I knew these people. I'm going, show me Maria, and the thing would swing to Maria, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to try with Rael, and I could not get it to point to him. I asked and I asked and I asked, and I'm going, what is wrong here? And I go, okay, well, I'm going to use his legal name, because he hasn't legally changed. Now, I don't get this, okay? If anybody has insight, I'd like to hear it. His spiritual name is Rael. His legal name on the 3D world is Raymond. When I asked to show me Raymond, it pointed to him. So I'm thinking, I don't get it. I haven't had time to pursue that. I can find out. It's just I haven't had time. So basically, you know that you can go out and play in the grass and douse for water and gold and all sorts of good things. You can douse for things that has gotten lost. People lose their keys all the time, and you can douse to find that or whatever. Those are practical uses, and a lot of times that's as far as people go with their dowsing. And that's fine. If that's all you want to do and it helps you and that's just where you're at, that's great. When I started hearing my guides speak to me and write, we were writing and we were channeling, we were doing all this stuff, and they said, stop using your dowsing tool, stop using the pendulum. And it kind of caused me some anxiety because I had gotten addicted. I admit it. But they said it's natural for for you to overlap when you're learning a particular skill. And right then I was learning to communicate telepathically, and I was moving away from the dowsing and moving over here. And I just didn't have enough time, or my head hurt a lot from all the stuff that was happening. So anyway, I laid it down and I didn't pick it up again for several years. And now I'm doing it again. And somebody said last night, well, why the heck are you doing that? And I addressed that, and I hope all of you remember my response. I'm doing it because I want to make life easier here on the planet. I didn't mention map dowsing. This is another way to douse, another use for it. You can, I've done this several times, draw out like a square or a rectangle or whatever shape you want. I'm just going to pretend like I'm wanting to douse in my home. So you don't have to be perfect, just draw out the a square or whatever, and you put your address on it and which way north is and what have you. And I'm just going to say I'm looking for something in my home. So I draw out some grids and I douse each, and I ask for whatever item I'm looking for or what energy I'm looking for, because it's not always a physical thing that you're looking for. And you can determine what part of the home that item or energy is in. Okay, I'm just kind of giving you a broad overview of the way this works. I gotta get a drink. Just a second. Before I go any further, I'd like to know if anyone has any questions so far that I've kind of messed up on.
Just a quick question, when you have a yes, it goes back and forth. When you have a clockwise, what does that mean again?
Clockwise is filling in the energy. I'm going to get to that. That's part of programming.
Okay, thank you.
That is, yeah. I've stated that some people have different movements, and I believe that's because they never programmed their system. They just got what they got, and it seemed natural, it felt good, and they went with it, and that's fine. But when you are working specifically with transmuting energies, basically the pendulum is to give you feedback on what's actually happening. So I am communicating with my guides, the system, and they're showing me through the movement each step that we're going through. I have to direct them. I have to ask. This is part of our job. We have dominion over the earth. Well, the guides and our archangels and who are working with us, they're not going to just do this. We have to ask them. So when I'm working with my dowsing tool, I have to ask them to do particular things. I have to figure out, well, okay, what's for the highest good? And sometimes I'll ask, is this for the highest good? Because it's not. And then you will be shown through each step, because I'm directing it each step. And I'm asking them, release that energy or neutralize it, okay? And they'll do it. And I'm telling you, sometimes if there's so much energy, and this is part of the reason why we measure energy, this thing will go for 5 minutes. And we're not going to do that now, though. And then after I get done releasing it or neutralizing it, we want to fill in that space that we've created energetically with light and love. If you don't, the stuff just comes back, other stuff. That stuff gets transmuted, but you've left a void, and we don't want to do that. So I'm going to shift now. We're going to start teaching. I have done a whole lot of research on this and looked at all the different ways that you can assist yourself in doing this correctly to get the best results. First of all, I'm going to go back into your grade school days and remember what they taught you. How to take care of yourself physically, mentally, emotionally. You are to get enough rest. You're to stay hydrated. You're to exercise. Let's see, what's the other ones? I done forgot. But you have these things that have been implanted in our minds, and they're supposed to be programmed into our minds. And I don't know what happened, but a lot of us didn't get the programs. And we go about our lives, and we've gotten lazy, and we like to sit in front of the TV instead of going out and breathing the fresh air. And so there's a lot of ways to take care of ourselves. This is important no matter what modality of healing you are involved in. If you don't take care of yourself, you're going to get run down, and you're just not going to be worth anything. Sorry, this is the way it works. So if you don't practice self-love, you're just not going to get the best results. And I stated before that you want to stay neutral. So this is part of overcoming the ego. This does not happen overnight. This takes steps, and the steps are subtle. You don't really see it on a physical level exactly the progress you're making. And a lot of people get upset and frustrated. I'm not, and it's subtle energy, and you can't see it, and you cannot determine the progress. I mean, when you've made a big leap, yeah, you can see it, or you're faced with the same situation and you react. I'm going to use the word react differently. You are in control, and you're reacting. You're acting. You're actually in control, and you're focused on how you're dealing with the situation. So that, and I'm getting kind of off here because Spirit kind of directs sometimes. Stuff comes out that you guys need to hear. So we just flow, okay? Always, when you're dowsing, you state a clear intention. So you want to douse, let's see, I don't want to get there yet. I've got some props I'm going to use. I got an orange and some supplements. But in the morning when I get up, I will get my stuff out, that I'm going to eat, and I will douse it and find out if there's any unbeneficial energies. Well, I have a clear intention. That's my purpose. And when you want to find out something, you state it clearly. Well, I want to know if there's a vein of negative energy running through my home. Okay? You're stating an intention. That's what you want to find out. Now, these are protocols. This is from the American Dowsing Society. They have developed this system to help people. It's can I, may I, or should I? Oh, by the way, we have a book over there on the vendors building that includes all this stuff. So if you're writing like mad and you don't want to, just come over and get a book. So we have may I, can I, should I? May I is basically connecting with your team, your dowsing system, and it's like having manners. It's like you're not being demanding because you really don't want to have that kind of attitude. You just want to be loving and say, hey, may I do this? And I'm dowsing when I'm asking these questions, okay? I'm asking, may I do this? And I get a yes. And I ask, can I? And that means, do I have the ability, the skill level that's required to douse what I stated before, the intention I set? So I got a yes. And the other one is should I? And the reason why we do the should I, that's more complex, but you guys can all get it, I'm sure, is go back to how you're taking care of yourself. Are you hydrated? Are you hungry? Are you crabby? You can have all these issues that are working subtly, and maybe you just need to go off and rest. You need to take care of yourself instead of pushing yourself so hard. And so should I encompasses that, and as well as there are times when professional dowsers, or not, just anybody that's dowsing, is approached by another person and they want you to douse on something. And I'm telling you, this in every modality of healing, you guys need to be aware of this. Sometimes it's not for your highest good to proceed with that person. Their agenda, and I'm speaking agenda, is not honest. We're sorry, but there are people out there like that. I'm not using conscious language, I'm sorry. But we don't want to work with that energy. It's not who we are. So that's part of the should I. The other part is really kind of complex, and I learned it the hard way, because when I was dowsing, I was dowsing on people, and I shouldn't have. I wanted to know how they were feeling about certain things. You can ask all sorts of questions. I was doing it because I was really curious. I wanted to know. And it wasn't for my highest good. So I'm saying right now, you assess, is what you're asking for of the ego mind or of the Christ consciousness? Look at it. And sometimes we don't recognize when the ego has taken over. We just don't. And again, don't beat yourself over. We are all learning, all of us. And if you haven't been through that particular situation, you just learn. Those are the three protocols that dowsers use regularly. They use that with each session. And I have to say that they recommend that. Right now, I'm at the place where I don't really require to ask those questions. I know what my skill level is. I know if it's for my highest good. I know if I'm hydrated, so on. I know all these things. But when you're first learning, it's a good idea because you have pieces of the puzzle that you're all putting together, and you want to be an effective dowser. Let's see. Protocols. We also we're all spiritual people, and all of you have your own particular practices. My practice is each morning when I get up to connect with my guidance, and I say a short prayer of connection, and that I intend the entire day to work for the highest good. I want to be able to communicate with whoever comes into my field or not. There's long distance communications as well, and do it for the highest good. So I'm stating that as my intention, that I'm going to follow that, and I'm asking for assistance from my guidance, my God self, to make sure that's what happens. So when you're dowsing, no matter if you have that practice developed or not, you still want to state an intention that you're doing this for the highest good. There's none of us here that are trying to hurt anybody or douse information that's none of our business. That's not our agenda. We don't want that. All we want to do is raise the vibration of our planet and help each other in the process. Okay? So those are the protocols. Programming. We are going to move to programming. This is going to help you understand how the pendulum works. We kind of briefly already did this, but not to the extent. First of all, I ran across this several times where people pick up a pendulum and they're like, I can't get it to move. It just kind of jiggles and it won't move. That's because you haven't programmed it. There are dowsers who recommend that you connect with your tool and you carry it around for I don't know how long. I don't know if that's necessary or not. I never did. But it's a possibility. And if it feels good to you, do it. But what you're doing is actually telling your guides which way, or your system, which way you want the pendulum to move for a particular answer. So if you're new and you can't get your pendulum to move, and it's frustrating, I know, you take your pendulum and you say, okay, guys, first of all, you connect with your guides and you say, well, I'm really glad, or I'm very appreciative, or whatever. You give thanks for their volunteering to help us in any modality that you're working with. I want you guys, my beloveds, however you want to phrase it, to move back and forth when the answer is yes. And I can, okay, will you give me a yes? My pendulum, my system's already been programmed. But if you still can't get it to go move, you just move it. And you say, this is what I want you to do. Maybe they don't know the words. I don't know. Who knows? Your system. It's all electrical. Somebody said something about electricity last night. I'm like, that's what happens. It's electricity. So all this consciousness is coming through and flowing through the physical body, and it's causing this to move. So anyway, we want a yes. So just work with it. And if it doesn't want to go, just show it. And okay, so give me a yes. And when you finally get it to, you could do this on the first try, This is easy, okay? I don't want to put it out there that's difficult, but people, anyway. So we train it. We're going to move to a no, and you do the same thing. We are going to move sideways for a no. When I have an answer that's no, I want you to move the pendulum sideways, okay? And you work with it until you get it. The next movement we're going to do, and this is on your charts, by the way, so kind of sidestep here. This chart is complex. I know it is. And it's so expanded. You can use it for just anything. But the next movement is on the right upper hand side, ready for question. And that's a diagonal. And so we're going to train it to do a diagonal. So when they're finished with the answer that they want you to have, or you've asked for, a lot of the time the pendulum will start swinging to ready for the next question. When you are dowsing, a lot of times you're going to have several questions that you have to ask to determine whatever it is you're wanting to find out. Okay. Again, two more movements. The counterclockwise, this goes in a circle. This is removing energy or neutralizing, or think of some synonyms for that. And again, I want to state that depending on the strength of whatever's happening, it can go just a little tiny bit, a little tiny circle, or it can be going, show us a big one, okay? Bigger. It can go straight out, go all the way. I mean, and with such force that you think you can't hang on to the pendulum. And it can go for quite a ways. I've noticed, I'm sidetracking again, I know, but if I don't say these things when I think of them, I've noticed that when I join the consciousness, well, I'm not just being, I'm just watching it. Okay, I just tell it what to do and it does its thing. But when I join energetically with it, this thing, it doesn't take as long to complete the action, which I find amazing. I really do. So if you want to speed up the process, just join it. And when you are appreciative and love and you're filling in the void, you can expand that, and it is awesome. It really is. It's a cool experience. So we covered all the movements, and you have trained your system how to communicate with you effectively, all right? I hesitate to bring in anything else with the movements, but there are other movements. Sometimes I will get, just for heads up, if you guys are really avid dowsers and you're going to do this a lot, you will notice that you are getting a different guide because they will have a different way of communicating with you. And I've noticed that one of the things that happens when I ask a question and it's they can't answer it. It's a yes or no question, but they can't. So they give me a yes and a no. And that means I need to look at it a little bit closer and ask the question differently. Okay. Also, some of my guides will go ready for the next question, some won't. It's just, but I've been doing it a long time, so I notice these things. Also, when you get a no sometimes, you need to find out if it's because that is the answer or they simply will not answer it. So I've gotten to the place where when I get a no, I just ask, is this the answer to my question, or are you just not going to answer me? Because sometimes I haven't asked it correctly, or, there's multiple reasons it could be. So, and a lot of times it's when I'm at night, when I'm supposed to be sleeping, maybe, and they're like, you really need to go to sleep. So anyway, these are possibilities that you might encounter as you go forward. Okay. Are you watching the clock, timekeeper? We got to move on. We got to do our exercises. One thing I didn't say. One of the most important things about dowsing is how you phrase your questions. Always, always, always keep a journal when you're first learning how to dowse. And write down how you phrased your question and what your answers are. Date them, I don't care. Do as much detail as you want, because inevitably you'll want to refer back to these things. And sometimes I'll develop a dowsing session, and I just, for some reason, I don't finish it. I might want to return the next night, or I haven't figured out how I want to phrase the question or whatever. So if I have a journal and written down what I've done, I can refer to it to the next night. A lot of times when I'm doing this type of work, it'll promote stimulation to the mind, and it'll promote growth. It'll cause me to have more questions, and it's a process. So if you write down and you're learning about a particular something, you can refer back to it and continue that process. Always when you're dowsing, we are using the present tense, meaning that when you ask a question, they will answer you in the now. They will not normally, they can answer in the future or in the past, but you must state that that's what you want. Again, when you're doing future questions, I didn't cover this. Future questions are very, they're not a sure thing because energy is in motion. You're constantly making new decisions. You douse on something today, tomorrow it's probably going to be different. When you're measuring energy, it's just going to change. So when you're trying to figure out something and you're going into the future, a lot of times it just doesn't work. So I want you to be aware of that. We are going to move on to the actual exercises. Because I hope I covered the basics well enough to where you can do this. Does anybody feel like they don't have it? I'm not getting it. Okay, so I'm going to go on. We have a lot of issues with our food and our air and our water and the earth. Every energy around us we question. That's kind of where we're at in life. We're concerned about GMOs in our food and the chemicals they spray. And so everybody's got the idea, I'm going to go buy organic food. And I'm being sarcastic for a purpose. I went to the store and bought my organic food, came home and doused it, and I did not get, this food is for your highest good. It took me a while to figure it out, but so I started dowsing for unbeneficial energies. I've got an orange here. I don't know if it's organic or not. I just, picked it off the counter, and because I don't even worry about it anymore, mostly. That's a different lesson. So does this, this is awkward. I'm trying to douse here. I don't know if you guys can see this or not. I'm going to ask this. This orange looks good. Is there any non-beneficial substances that covers anything on or in this orange? Okay, what they're doing now is looking at it, assessing the energy. It's going counterclockwise. Okay, we want an answer. Is there anything unbeneficial in it? I'm getting a yes. Okay. You can measure how strong the non-beneficial energies are, but in this particular case, I'm not choosing to. And they've already started because we've done it so many times. We want to clear the energy, neutralize all non-beneficial energies in this orange, please. I said please, I'm being nice. It's not going real fast or anything, but we're just teaching here. Now, because we've cleared it, we want to fill it with light. We're raising the vibration so it's healthier. And that's why we have the title of this talk here, Dowsing for the Health of It. So it's kind of like saying a prayer over it, but a lot of times when you're praying over your food, it's like, thank you, God, and you eat it. That's all there is to it. And I'm like, does that really do anything? Yeah, it shows gratitude and it does raise the vibration a little bit, but probably you can do a better job. So this, with the dowsing tool, your pendulum, you're getting actual feedback. So did we clear it? I cut it short. So we want to know now, we're rechecking because this is a teaching, if there's anything unbeneficial in or on this orange that remains. Please answer that. Can everybody see this? Okay. It's swinging sideways, saying no. That's my no. So I'm going to ask another question. Is this orange, this is for fun, you guys practice, is this orange safe for me to eat? Got it. Okay. So, you can do that with anything you eat, anything you drink, and feel confident that what you're ingesting is for your highest good. I'm going to go a little further with it. I brought a bottle of supplements. Probably most of us here take supplements because we think we're not getting what we need out of our food. I venture to say I'm kind of gonna risk something here. When you douse your supplements, are you saying, is this for my highest good? Is that all you do? Is this supplement for my highest good? I got a yes. You can go on and determine how many you're supposed to take, what time of the day, and so on. But I was playing around with this and I asked, is there anything non-beneficial in these pills right here? Okay? Checking it out. Yes. And I am in a quandary. I'm like, you just told me it was for my highest good to take. What is going on? And the answer was, well, the good part outweighs the bad part, basically. It's not how it was phrased, but and I'm thinking, well, I ain't gonna take it. If there's anything bad for me in this and non-beneficial, I don't want it. I don't care if it is for my highest good. And so I started shifting the way I do things. Instead of just saying, well, doing the body test, you know how everybody does this, is this for my highest good? And they get a yes and they don't do anything, they just take it. And so what I'm doing is I'm raising the vibration, I'm neutralizing anything that's non-beneficial in the actual pills. We're not talking about the container, because if you're not specific, you know. So I'm neutralizing or, removing the non-beneficial energies. Then I'm going to raise the vibration of it, okay? And to this date, I don't know of anything else I can do to make these supplements better for me. I don't. And if somebody else does, I'd be glad to hear it. As part of the process that we're going through, learning how to identify energies and how to work with them, instead of just being ignorant and going about your business and not questioning anything that we're encountering here. So we are empowering ourselves is what we're doing, okay? I would love to go on with this, but I'm not. There is so many different ways to use dowsing. It is incredible. It just blows my mind. And I can't even begin to cover the different ways that it can benefit you. I came up with a little simple one a couple nights ago. I was thinking about animals and how people go into the shelters and they pick out their little animal. And they think, oh, that little dog is really cute. I love the little furry animal and it's wagging its tail. And on a subtle level, you can usually tell if a pet is going to be good for your home, or it's going to resonate with you. But you're seeing that dog in one moment, and the dog has cycles or has particular you're just seeing it in that moment. It's like a person. They have a personality. And tomorrow, that dog may act totally different. And this is true. It looks cute now, but wait till tomorrow. What happens if it gets around your little girl or your little boy and it doesn't actually care for kids? Okay? These are questions that can be answered very easily with a pendulum. I mean, I can't tell. I can't. Is this dog, just by looking, is it going to like my daughter? Is it going to be okay with kids? Is it going to be okay with my other dog? I don't have animals. But hey, this is a possibility. So you can take your dowsing system and ask, is this animal that I'm looking at right now have the personality that's going to resonate and be for my highest good? Are we going to be able to get along and cohabitate in a calm nature, or something like that, and find out if that dog is going to fit in to your home or not. And you can do this with dowsing. You can do this with mates as well, I think. I haven't tried that one, but maybe I should have done that first. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding, I really am. He's not laughing. So you can douse for leaks in your pipes. You can douse for car problems to determine what part is broken. All sorts of stuff. And this is kind of a fun one. I learned this recently. You can douse for the truth and what people are saying to you. And right now, I'm up here talking. You can douse if I'm speaking the truth. So, and you can get the percentage of truth if that's what you want to do. Because I know that people, when they do presentations, sometimes they believe a particular, we're talking about God truth, they believe something to be true when it's not. And so all of us who are presenting this weekend are speaking what we know to be the truth. So I read a book, and I'm kind of curious because some of the things that was written in it I kind of questioned. It just didn't resonate. So I can douse to find out the measure of truth in it. I don't know if any of you even want to do that, but you can douse a person if they're talking to you, and you kind of get the gist or the feeling that there's something off with the conversation, but you can't really determine. You're just not quite there, and so hey, douse it, and maybe they think they know what they're talking about, but it's not something that is true. All right, so we are going to work on particular energies for yourself. I find this quite interesting because we're all human. We have cycles. We have dips in our energy. I've got Pat out there. She's listening to everything I'm saying. She's the expert dowser. So what? I can't hear you. Okay, she's listening to everything. I may be saying something that's not right, and she knows. Oh, thank you. You're head of the Dowsing Society, in Washington. So she's one of the big wigs. I'm just a little peon over here. So I found this particularly interesting because I was having dips in my energy level, and I'm working with my I am presence, and I'm trying to connect, and I have connected somewhat, but I'm trying to figure out the way that you communicate and give commands and to get them to work. So I'm working on my energy level, I'm working on my sleep patterns, and I'm saying, my energy is really low, I don't feel good. And so I'm directed, this is one of the practices they do in dowsing, to, you guys look at your charts here. I'm directed to pendle, I call it pendling, my energy level, okay? Does anybody understand what I'm talking about when I say energy level? It means how energetic, how full of life you are. If you're dragging and you just want to go lay down somewhere, you don't have high energy, so or enough energy. So I ask what my energy level is, and I need to do this on somebody else because I know what mine is and mine's right now. What's your name? Gladys. Okay, Gladys. She's going to be our guinea pig. Come over here. Okay, we are going to douse Gladys's energy level right now. You got high energy. And I'm not doing it real precise, but it's this particular, I got to go back. This pig, on our energy level, just hang on. We're using the outside measurement, and you have to tell your guides which circle or which numbers you're using, okay? You got to tell them up front. We're using this right here. It'll go all the way around the outside circle, and we are adding 3 zeros to it. So you can play around with these charts and make them for your own purposes. And I know I'm kind of going advanced, I'm sorry, but I have to for this reason. So we are adding 3 zeros to the outside circle, and Gladys's energy level is approximately, we're not doing a specific, it's between 40,000 and 50,000. We got a strong, it's a little bit higher than what I said. It's closer. You have an extremely high energy level. Everybody has different energy level, by the way. Okay, don't leave. Okay. So I'm going to ask, what's her ideal energy level? Okay. And you're using the same chart. I was hoping to get somebody that wasn't on the ideal level. She's right on the note. I mean, she's working with her ideal. You do feel good? Do you feel good? Good. Is there anybody out here that doesn't feel good? We'll finish with you. Huh? No, she's ideal. We don't know. No. You're working at the ideal level right now, and that's where you should be. So you're measuring and finding out what the ideal measurement is, and with her and with me it was right, so I can't change it, or the system doesn't change it. Now if I were to get a low energy reading for you, lower than your ideal, or higher, I haven't ever run into that, by the way, but I would change it. I mean, I would ask my system to adjust it to the ideal energy level. It works like that. And I am amazed when first of all, you got to notice when you're feeling kind of draggy to be cognizant of those fluctuations of energy and to ask to have it adjusted. And you can, you go through the process with your dowsing. And it works. It's amazing. It's said that people like me who are learning, and it's kind of like strengthening part of you. So you will notice it when you're first learning that you can even do this. You'll notice it more often, and then it'll just kind of wane off because you've adjusted it so many times that it's sticking. You know what I'm saying? Unless you guys aren't following your good habits of sleeping and hydrating yourselves and all that kind of stuff. It could be just that you need to take better care of yourselves. And the part of it is showing you that something is not quite right. But it can be adjusted. So we also, I'm running out of time. I'm not? Okay. I gotta reassess just a second. Okay. We're gonna look at frequencies. Energy level and frequencies is two different things. And it's kind of, I'm not a scientific person, so to try to explain all this is kind of difficult, but I'm going to try to paint a picture for you. Your body has a whole lot of different frequencies in it. each organ has a different frequency. Your whole entire body has a overall frequency. I'm gonna explain it like you are an orchestra, and each organ has its own tone that it plays. And sometimes those organs get out of alignment. And I'm not working with each organ now, okay? I'm just gonna make it clear, I'm not that advanced. But overall, you can measure someone's frequency to find out if it is ideal. It's the same way as the energy level. You want to maintain a healthy frequency. And there is a measurement for unhealthy, for disease. And if you doused it and you got that number, you would want to start working really, try to straighten it out. But what we're going to do is just measure the frequency of your overall being and do the same thing as we did with Gladys here, measure what the ideal frequency is. Again, I want to state that everybody is different. We all have different backgrounds, different races, different parts of the world that we've been born in, and this affects the frequencies and all of that. We are not the same. We are, but we're not. We're individual. On frequency, I was taught that you didn't have to check it very often. But when you're first learning, I think it probably would benefit anybody to check these types of things, because we're talking about your health, and we want to be healthy. I've been told, I don't know how many times, we're in these physical bodies. We're to take care of them. We've been given these gifts, and we're supposed to, if we want to stay here and do what we're supposed to do, serve in whatever way, you got to take care of yourself. So part of it is maintaining the proper frequencies and energy levels. Does anybody have any questions so far? Yes. She's gonna open.
How do we know if we are not on the right frequency?
You take your chart. First of all, you have to program your pendulum and your dowsing system and tell them which part of the chart that you want to use, and ask what your frequency, right? What your frequency is right now. Okay, and you measure it. And I didn't really tell the number of what the number of frequencies were, but you measure it, and then you ask what the ideal frequency is for you. Okay, if it doesn't match, you ask your system to adjust it to the ideal frequency. And you can check it after you've done it to see if it's been corrected.
Have you noticed any physical signs of being on, if you're low energy, you can usually feel that, but can you feel if you're on a lower frequency?
I can't. That's a subtle energy, and I'm not at the level where I know that. Unfortunately, I wish I could. You wouldn't need to use your pendulum, I guess, if you got to that point. I want to shift. I want to just say something. There's a lot of people here in the Mount Shasta area that have taken on spiritual names. I mentioned it earlier that my husband had taken on his spiritual name, and my dowsing system didn't recognize it. I was like, what's up with that? But the spiritual names that people are taking have a different frequency to them. It's like every word has a frequency. And so when we have grown or expanded to a higher frequency, we have all these energetic bodies, so it's very complex. But when we have expanded to a different frequency, our guides, or I am presence, or whoever you want to call your God, feels like you need to be using a different name to assist you to match the vibration or frequency, that's when you get the guidance to change. I mean, there might be other reasons, but this is the one I'm getting because that's what I was told when I had my name changed. We want you to change your name because simply your old name doesn't match your frequency. It's outdated. So it's interesting here in this area because there's so many people with unusual names. It's awesome. So that's part of the reason why we Gladys wants to ask a question.
Yes, I want to know if we can help another person in another state, because I have my daughter living in another state, and sometimes she calls me and, Mom, I'm not feeling well, please help me. I feel not very well of energy.
Okay.
So
Yeah, you can do long distance. Probably a lot of you are aware of energy healing. You can do long distance energy healing. This is the same way. She's got a perfect situation because her daughter is asking for help. I really hesitate to tell someone, oh, go work on this person without asking first. I don't think it works very well, but hey, you can do it. May not be a good idea. So yes, you can check her energy level. It could be this is advanced, you guys. What she's asking is the energy level. She doesn't feel well. Her energy level's low. It could be a lot of different things. If you can adjust her frequency, her energy level, but there might be something else going on. Something physical. And this is all subtle energy, you guys. There might be a problem with a relationship that's draining her, a physical ailment that needs to be dealt with. You can determine these with a pendulum by dowsing. It's extensive, okay? You have to be committed and at the level of skill that you know what you're doing. I just want to present just another chart because she asked that question and I have time. I don't know who created this. I got it off the internet. No, I didn't. I got this at the Dowsing Society. When you're Googling dowsing, you can get all sorts of charts. I mean, it's overwhelming. But these look like little flowers. Can you see that? And they have spaces, and you can write. Like if you have an allergy, you can use this for I don't know how many different reasons. I don't get into it too much. But if I had an allergy, I could write down, and I didn't know what it was, a food allergy. I could write down all the foods I'm eating, probably not, but most of them, ones I suspect. I could write down the names of the foods that I'm eating and find out what I'm allergic to. Now, I know that we want to get to the core issues of what's making us feel bad. So this is it's just a little piece of it. But you can determine for the time being what is the problem and stop eating that until you can determine the core issue. Okay? And we have all these energetic bodies, and energy gets stuck. And we do, on a subtle level, a lot of us just don't understand how that happens. But it does. We get fixated on particular emotions, and it'll go into your aura, one of your bodies, and it'll travel, and it'll manifest on a physical level. And then we have to deal with it physically. I'm saying you can identify and measure energy using the dowsing system. You can also transmute it, but I'm not saying don't try other things as well, like going to a doctor. If you have an ailment that's really serious, I would go to a doctor. I would. I'm not saying that's going to work either. I've tried doctors, and a lot of times it didn't work either. So all of this is determining exactly what the core issue is and working with that, really. It's a releasing energy. I want to give one more example, and then we'll touch on questions if anybody has them. I am fairly new here. I've been here not even 3 years, and because I've never lived in an area where there's mountains and vortexes and all these spiritual people, was inundated with different types of energy, and higher vibrations and also lower vibrations. It's just different. And I was frequenting a particular store here in Mount Shasta, and what I'm going to call it is, I'll say that we have travelers constantly coming and going out of this area from all over the world, and they carry energy. And I didn't even talk about negative entities in this session, but people have negative entities, okay? And in these particular stores that our travelers frequent, sometimes they drop them off. Somebody like me, who's unsuspecting, goes into the store and they're like, and I feel energy. I'm like, oh my God, what's wrong with me? I all of a sudden I feel sick. And I go home and I'm irritable and I'm yelling at my husband and I'm like, I don't know what's wrong with me. But I don't stop and assess it. I just have all this stuff. So part of becoming empowered with knowing all this stuff is recognizing when there's an energy that's not, doesn't feel good. First of all, I've learned that I don't go anywhere without having some sort of protection. I've asked my guides, my masters, my archangels that I work with to assist me, to walk beside me anywhere I go. This has nothing to do with dowsing. It's just something that's we need to know, and especially when there's a lot of travelers. I call them hitchhikers. They go with these travelers and we want to try something new, and they'll go and they'll come home with you, and it's not good. So you've encountered an energy that is uncomfortable, to say the least. Could be extreme, but sometimes it's so subtle you just don't get it. But with the dowsing system, you can determine exactly where you've picked it up, what kind of energy it is, how strong it is, because I'm telling you, this is the truth. Sometimes when you're transmuting energy, it doesn't get totally transmuted the first time. So if you know the strength of all of this, you want to recheck it and make sure you got it all. Okay, this is just part of it. It's an awesome tool to use, and a lot to be aware of. I think you're probably expanded enough. Does anybody have questions? Yes, we got one right here.
I know you can clear your particular food that you're about to eat, but what about clearing every grocery bag you bring in your house and then put it away?
I'm pretty sure you can. I don't know how long. I'm going to explain it like this. I was thinking about doing a clearing of the room here, and what I was told was, what are you clearing exactly? Or asked, are you clearing the ethers, the air, or do you want to clear everything that's in it? You guys, the chairs, the walls, and what have you. And they said, we'd be there for a long time clearing energy. And besides that, you guys are making energy right now. How can you possibly totally clear it? Groceries are different. And I would douse it. I would take my bag of groceries, and ask, can I clear this whole entire bag? And also ask if it has non-beneficial. You know what, you're going to get a yes. But once you clear it and you fill the void in with light and love, ask it again if it's cleared. Are you going to go so far as to clear the packages, the bag itself, or do you just want to clear the contents? And also, you're going to shelve those items. Energy shifts. It's exposed to other energy. It's going to change the frequency. So my habit is to clear it and raise the vibration before I eat it. And I think that's where the prayer thing came in, because that's what they were doing right before they ate. They wanted to raise the vibration at that moment before they took it into their bodies. So I'm saying yes and no. And you might get that when you ask your dowsing system. Okay, all right. Depends on how you ask it. Any other questions? Got 1 minute. Let me look and see if there's anything else. There's one thing I did not touch on this chart. You've got a non-beneficial side here and a beneficial side. I encourage you to take this home and just look at it, study it. But when you're checking for non-beneficial energies, you can just tell your system to use this side of the chart and just go right here. And there's also numbers, and you can ask what the strength is on this side of the you can skip a step is what I'm saying, because you pretty much know, I bring a piece of fruit home, well, there's going to be non-beneficial. The other piece of it is, if you have organic food, you have no clue what that piece of fruit's been through since it came off the tree. The people who handle it have energy. The truck itself has energy. Look at it, I'm asking. Be responsible for what you put in your body. We want to be here for a long time. Thank you very much.